My name is Cole Merrick, and the last thing I said to Daniel West was, "You take the left, I've got the door." He nodded the way brothers nod when there isn't room for doubt. Then the world blinked, the kind of blink that takes a man and leaves his outline behind. Command called it fog. Paper called it procedure. But the sand remembers. And so do I. When we rotated home, the brass told me to rest. Rest is a story we tell broken engines. I lay in a room that didn't know the sound of generators and listened to a new noise. Silence from the people who should have said more. I promised myself one thing. I would find the truth about the night we lost Daniel. Not for revenge. For his kid. For the oath we said out loud and the ones we kept to ourselves. I came back to Virginia with a duffel and a folder the VA gave me like a prize for showing up. The air smelled like rain on hot asphalt. My apartment had a view of a parking lot and a slice of sky that changed colors on schedule. I started running before dawn because moving forward was the only thing that still made sense. People try to give you the right words when you return. Thank you for your service. How are you sleeping? You look good. I nodded and practiced sentences that didn't show the edges. Captain Mason Hale sent a text 2 weeks in. Debrief lunch. Hale always wrote like a calendar alert. He was our company golden boy. Clean boots, clean a file. The kind of officer who smiled when cameras were around but learned your kids' names when no one was watching. Or so we thought. We met at a diner with coffee strong enough to grow hair on your conscience. Hale asked about my transition with a voice so smooth it could have been a runway. I asked about the paperwork from the night we lost Daniel. He said, "It's all in the report." There's a tone some men use when they want you to believe the paper did the feeling for them. I left with a number for family readiness and a reminder to take it easy. I went home and pulled out the after-action report I'd read until I could recite it backwards. It was tidy to tidy. It said the enemy moved through an alley we never saw. It said our drone loitered on station. It said unavoidable. Paper loves inevitability. There was one line that stuck like a burr. ISR feed unavailable. 2207 to 2213 due to platform handoff. 6 minutes. A lifetime. On a Tuesday I didn't plan to remember. I met Daniel's widow, Ava, at a park where the swings squeak in a key only kids can love. Her son, Theo, wore a superhero cape over a t-shirt that said, "Be kind." He crashed into my leg and asked if I could make paper airplanes fly straighter. I told him I'd do my best. Ava looked like the kind of tired you get when paperwork keeps arriving with condolences stapled to it. She gave me a folder she'd been given after the memorial. "It's all I have," she said. Her hands shook in a way she hid by folding them together. Inside, there was a photo of Daniel I'd never seen, smiling with a sunburn and a squint that made him look braver than any ribbon could. There was also a printout, logistics handoff, memo from a contractor, Helios Defense Partners, timestamped within minutes of our ISR blackout. "They kept calling," she said. "I had questions, and they kept transferring me. Helios is on everything, and I don't know why." Helios had been around us like weather drones, comms, advisors. I'd assumed they were the wallpaper of modern war. That day, the wallpaper looked like a door. I asked Hale about Helios in a low, careful voice 2 days later. He said they're a vendor, Cole. Then he added, "Don't start chasing ghosts." The same phrase, I later learned, he had used with Ava. Ghosts don't scare me. People who pretend not to see them do. I found Noah Park, our former platoon cum sergeant, stocking shelves at a hardware store where everything smells like promises you make to your house. Noah had left the service 6 months earlier with a limp and a laugh that sounded like an engine trying to catch. Over coffee in the back room, he stared at the wall with the kind of focus you save for land nav. "I scrubbed the feeds that night," he said. "We had eyes until we didn't." Helios said there was a satellite handoff. It happens, but the timing and the fact that Hale told me to stop asking questions the next morning. He shook his head. "It tasted wrong." "Tasted how?" I asked. "Like someone sold us a clean story," he said, "and cleaned the mess with it." Noah slid a small USB across the table. "Pulled this before they took my clearance. Don't open it on anything you like." He smiled without humor, or anyone else likes. Home. I used an old laptop that wheezed when you asked it to do more than keep time. The drive held signal logs, times, call signs, a chat transcript from 2206 where a Helios tech typed, "Standby, priority client channel," and our JTAC replied, "Copying it ISR now." Then the feed went dark. When it came back, the alley was already smoke and echo. There was also a short email chain between Hale and a Helios liaison labeled community engagement-based families with social hours, donor lists, and a smiling photo of Hale cutting a ribbon for a veteran wellness wing sponsored by Helios. Good money makes good pictures. Sometimes it buys silence. 2. I printed everything and laid it on the kitchen table like a map. The lines all ran through the same crossroads. Helios and Hale. I needed a second compass. I called Maya Renteria, an investigative reporter who had covered our brigade with quiet respect, never exploiting, always confirming. We met at a library because secrets like to pretend they're studying. I slid her the copies. She didn't react like a TV show. She just said, if this holds, it's an ethics story tied to operations. Not easy, but not impossible. What do you need? I asked. Two things, she said. A witness with skin in the game, and a clean timeline I can corroborate in 3 places. Witness, I said. Noah, he helps, she said. But I need someone currently in the machine. Or someone who can prove the handoff wasn't routine. I thought of Liam Rhodes, a Helios contractor who used to bum cigarettes off our guys just to talk. He'd left me a voicemail months ago. If you ever want to know what really happened at 2207, buy me coffee. I'd ignored it. Ignoring was easier then. Now, coffee sounded like a plan. Helios headquarters was glass and chrome and a lobby furned too alive to be real. Liam met me at a hole-in-the-wall 2 blocks away that sold coffee like contraband. He looked tired, which is how honesty usually dresses. I'm not a whistleblower, he said before the foam settled. I like my job. I like my paycheck. I don't like what we did that night. What did you do? I asked. We prioritized the client feed, he said, eyes on the swirl in his cup. Humanitarian convoy under Helios protection needed eyes on a corridor. The ops desk was juggling. Someone made a call. Your grid lost eyes for 6 minutes. The convoy donors were on that channel. Big money, big optics. Donors, I repeated, the word tasting like metal. Save your outrage, he said. That's above my pay grade. But we knew the risk. The handoff protocol existed for emergencies. This was optics. After the blast, our internal Slack lit up. Some said we were exposed. Others said the army would absorb it. He swallowed. Your captain did us a favor. He wrote it clean. You can prove that. I asked. I can prove the client feed in the handoff, he said. The favor. That's in how tidy your report is. Why tell me now? He looked up for the first time. Because my brother wears the same flag you do. And if he goes dark for a donor, I don't want to be the one who stayed quiet. He slid a folded printout across the table. Helios internal ticket with the words priority client view, temporary lock, timestamped 2207. He'd covered the names, but not the facts. I walked out with a pulse in my throat and the sudden understanding that the truth would not be polite. Pressure doesn't always look like threats. Sometimes it looks like opportunity. A Helios rep emailed me an invite to a Veterans Advisory Roundtable with a stipend attached big enough to solve my rent. The message mentioned healing 3 times. I wrote back 1 line. Does the roundtable include a session on 6-minute blackouts? They didn't reply. Noah got a courtesy call from an old superior, warning him that rumor mills can end consulting gigs. He shrugged like a man who has already paid more than money for silence and didn't plan to pay. Again, Liam's badge stopped working one Monday. Helios said it was a glitch. He knew better and started packing a go bag that held more worry than clothes. Ava left a message. On my phone I didn't deserve. Whatever you're doing, please be careful. Theo doesn't need another folded flag. I took a longer route home that night and changed phones. Paranoia is a tool. So is prudence. Maya called and said 3 words that sounded like an engine catching. We're almost there. The IG called us in on a Thursday that wore rain like a coat. Their conference room smelled like toner and nervousness. They asked questions like mechanics, precise, unemotional, dirty by the end. We answered with facts. I watched their pens move and saw in their lines the shape of consequence. They had already pulled access logs from Helios showing the client handoff. They had already interviewed 2 officers who said Hale encouraged positive partnerships with vendors and discouraged noise after the incident. One of them used the phrase wrong time to ask hard questions. There is never a wrong time for hard questions. Hale walked in with a lawyer, whose suit probably had a better health plan than most people. He looked at me like a man who wanted to forgive me for ruining his day. He said he had no knowledge of a non-standard handoff, and that he trusted partners. The IG showed him the chat transcript. He said he was not read into that channel. They showed him the photo of him at a Helios gala 2 nights before the handoff. Speech notes where he thanked them for keeping our eyes open. He adjusted his tie, then they asked him about a grant he'd helped secure for a community center. Good board included a Helios executive badge, whether he disclosed that relationship when signing off on after-action findings that absolved Helios. He used the word regrettable like it could replace responsible. We left the room without smiles. Accountability is not a victory lap. It's a ledger settling its numbers. The IG preliminary findings wrote themselves in the way truth does when it finally gets bored of being avoided. The memo used phrases like inappropriate vendor influence, non-standard ISR allocation, and appearance of conflict. It recommended a deeper probe and temporary suspension of Helios contracts tied to ISR management for RAO. It recommended administrative action against Hale, pending full review. Maya's story went live the next morning. She didn't throw bombs. She stacked bricks, timeline, logs, quotes, documents, interviews with names from people braver than they intended to be when they woke up that day. The headline didn't say anyone was a monster. It said 6 minutes missing. How a vendor's priorities and a captain's choices left a unit blind. The comment section did what comments do, but the emails in my inbox, some from Gold Star families, Some from quiet sergeants who had chewed the same cud said the thing that matters. Thank you for saying out loud what we felt in our bones. Helios put out a statement about partnering to learn and improve. Haley took administrative leave. The gala photos disappeared from their social feeds with the speed of a panicked intern. Noah got a voicemail from a Helios HR person asking if he'd consider a conversation about returning in a new capacity. He saved it and didn't call back. Liam got a new job with a startup that doesn't have donors who want their own camera. He sent me a text. Feels weird to breathe without checking over my shoulder. I replied, keep breathing. Ava read the story and called. We didn't talk about victory. We talked about Daniel's laugh and how Theo had started saying dad in sentences that didn't hurt as much. I stood at Daniel's grave on a morning that looked like it was trying out a new season. I brought coffee because we used to fight about who made it too strong. I told him about the memo and the story and the way the base gate still clangs when it opens like it's trying to warn the day. I told him about Theo's cape and how he runs with his arms out like he believes the ground is optional. 6 minutes, I said to the stone. We got them back. Not really, but enough that they can't be sold again. A groundskeeper waved. He'd seen me before. He let me sit longer than the sign suggests. When I finally stood, I felt the weight shift in a way that wasn't relief. Something steadier, maybe responsibility turning into rest. There were consequences I didn't plan for. Some doors closed, the kind you only see after you've walked through them. A contracting firm stopped returning my calls. A colonel I respected said I'd made things harder for people who are trying to do good. I told him sometimes you have to make things harder so good has room to stand. Hale didn't go to prison. That's not how most of this works. He resigned under a cloud that will rain on his resume forever, and he will spend a long time explaining why. Helios didn't shudder. They shifted. New policies, new training, new oversight, better eyes on the right windows. It's not a movie ending. It's a maintenance plan. People ask if I'm satisfied. Satisfaction is a dessert word. What I have is enough. I still run before dawn. I still carry a notebook in my back pocket because memory is a bad stenographer when the heart is loud. I help coach at the rec and yell about boxing out like it's a spiritual practice. Sometimes I stop by Ava's place with a new paper airplane designed for Theo. He always beats me with his own. I don't visit the base much, but when I do, I stand at the edge of the lot where buses unload and watch the same choreography of hellos. I hope the kids who run across that asphalt grow up in a world where 6 minutes stays where it belongs on a clock, not in a report. People think telling the truth is a battle. It is, but it's also a habit. You keep doing it until the habit remakes the room. If you're listening and you've got your own missing minutes places where the story doesn't line up and everyone smiles anyway, start with paper. Start with one other person who isn't afraid of ink. Start small. The quiet will try to scare you. Let it then speak anyway. My name is Merrick. I lost a brother in the sand, and I didn't let a donor by the dark. We didn't win a war. We fixed a rule. Sometimes, that's the whole mission. And for the ones who can't say it for themselves, we'll keep saying it until 6 minutes is just 6 minutes again.